practicing. So I grew up in rural Michigan. At the time, my hometown seemed like a place void of ambition, and every time I mentioned my bigger plans and aspirations to teachers and peers, I would be told to have a plan B. So I took on the role of the misunderstood kid and instead put everything I had into my plan A. And this master plan was to move west as soon as I graduate and to pursue my dream as a music producer and artist. And that's what I did. I chose Nevada instead of LA because it's infinitely more affordable. My family was worried about me because I was going to be living with people I met on the internet. And while I didn't know what life had in store for me, there was no doubt in my mind that this was the right decision. A month after I moved, I was backstage with Pharrell and Snoop Dogg and various other icons at the first ever Complex Con with my artist pass that granted me way more permission than I deserved, but I was doing it. A few months after that, I was uninspired, lonely, and I was running out of money in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And once a month or so, I drive to Los Angeles and go to some kind of networking party or show to make it feel like I'm doing something productive, but even those became very plastic and unfulfilling. It took me a while to admit that I was unhappy and unsatisfied because I was afraid that that would justify everything everyone said back home. And nowadays, I try to think back on the moment that I knew my master plan was in trouble, and I think it happened almost immediately after I moved to Nevada. I dropped my sister off at the airport to fly back home, and when I got home from the airport, I cried for the first time in at least 4 years. For most of my teenage years, I've been pretty incapable of crying, and I think it's because subconsciously, as like a 13 or 14-year-old, with everything that was going on in my life at the time, I made a decision to be solid. I didn't want my mother to have to worry about me, and since her emotions can be a little shaky at times, I knew I had to be the one that was solid. When I would think about that moment, I had convinced myself that I was just overwhelmed with my life and my newfound independence. But honestly, I think that was the moment I realized that my plan wasn't going to work out. I had a gut feeling 1 week after I got there, but it took me almost a year to realize that. I do think it's important to take time to look around and take inventory. And if you're unhappy, be honest with yourself and do something about it. So in November 2017, 13 months after moving to Nevada, I drove back to Michigan and prepared to relocate to Chicago at the start of the next year. And it's like, it's okay if things don't happen the way they should. Like, I am ultimately like a way better person than I was when I started.
Do you feel like you've made the changes to be happier?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you feel happier?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that matters, really.
I find it hard to read articles still. Head spinning, yeah, I'm caught in the wheel. Sky turned gray like my follicles will. Where I'm from, they keep a bottle concealed and sip it outside on the side of the hill. I learned a lot in a year.